I want to see who is the doctor in the room. Is there any doctors in the room? Now, the visions that I seen after sharing gospel is something that you would say was astronomical. What I seen was men, black men specifically, dropping to their knees. Because what happens is you start seeing awakenings from individuals that you feel are already awakened. Now, for some reason, the God wants me to talk about Pastor Michael. Because a lot of you believe that he is someone else. Now, this pastor that I used to work for is someone that you wish you could work for. He would take one look at you and say, you are not qualified. Now, I'm talking about your license. Upon entrance, once they seen that you could not pass the test after doing it 17 times, they said, we don't need to waste any more energy on that one because he's not going to make it. Now, what you will realize is when black men specifically awaken, it shifts the planet. This is something that they already know. Now, the big hoopla currently is the redemptions of going up yonder and going down yonder. Because many will say that they only know the going up yonder version. However, since I know I shared the going down yonder version, what he needs to realize is he is right because he is fixated on being right all the time. There is two different versions, going up yonder and going down yonder. I know because I'm the one that shared it. So you can rest assured that you are right this time. Now, because God is a character, what he does is he wants to see who is moved to actually comment because they want my attention 24 hours. 24 hours. Now, because there's a Fallon communicating with you now, you understand that they were not Fallons. They were not the demonic presence, as you now realize exists. And they were not the fallen angel. Because I know so much about church, they cannot busted me out of it because I was a church member. Now, if you want to see a real exorcist, put me in the Catholic Church because you'll see many things dropping and falling. If me, Ether, were to enter a Catholic church, because I have spiritual eyes, I see things. Now, some may say church is church, but the type of church makes a difference. Because when you take a Pentecostal and you put them in a Catholicist church, there's a different reaction, just like there's a different rendition to the recovers of gospel. Now, where I was at, when you typed in going down yonder, you sing banjo. I don't like banjo. I want to feel the illumination. So what you all need to realize is because this is one that has connectivity through Mansi, when he hears me, God willing, he says things like, I don't want them to be illuminated in their crown chakra because that means they're being saved. This is what he's asking for a collective of churchgoers to experience because they realize that you receive healing when you go get that type of tutelage. The problem is he wanted me to use a different preacher to deliver the message. So how many of y'all know that there's a difference between pastors and preachers? Are y'all illuminated enough to know the difference between pastors and preachers? Because he has a fly flying around him. If you just so happenly have a fly rest upon you, it is because something unclean is asking for a fly to be on you, because he now realizes that flies are associated with ish. This is the conversation that happens amongst the unholy in their mind. So now that the preachers and pastors are aware that that is what they're dealing with in the audience, then you'll now understand what is happening. What is being done now is he wants me to make a mistake trying to swat the fly and turn the camera on myself. He is a self-proclaimed genius. He is an idiot. Now, what I want him to do is to go on live with the camera facing his direction so you can all see that he is an addict. There's no hoopla happening. I done told you before, you cannot brawl with me. You won't ever be able to brawl with me either. This is something you need to realize. First of all, you are a coward. And every time you have a conversation amongst the fallen angels, you want them to do things like eliminate her. That's not going to happen. What they're going to do is whisper to you all the unclean, unholy things that you are. And what you're going to hear is either said it, either said it, either said it, because that is what the fallen wants you to hear. Not fallen, fallen. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about monitoring spirits and their association with flies. What you all are realizing is the God can communicate with the fly and tell the fly to rest upon you, bite you, sting you, all of those things. He is the controller of all living and unliving, even your car. Now you're starting to realize how great he is. You know, I be having issues with God. I'm not the first to admit it, but some things that the God does, I'm not in agreement with it. But that does not mean I'm not loyal. When he created cherubs, there's no cherub that has ever walked the planet that did not follow the God and his instruction. That means even if they're homeless. Which brings me to another issue that I want to bring up. Now, this issue is surrounding my exit. Do you all realize that these ones, they want me to bleed? They're not sure if I gave birth already. They want me to bleed as if I'm going to give birth or if I'm going to miscarry, or they didn't want anyone to help me leaving. They wanted me to carry all this heavy stuff. Then one decided that I should leave everything and have to start all over, and that when men would see me or meet me, they wouldn't want to be with me because I was dirty and stinky and nasty. All the things that she is. If y'all could hear the conversations that happens with these ones, you would say something like, where are they? There's a group of angels in a body that knows where this person is. When they went through my trail of tears, as they call it, because they feel like I was being persecuted, they had not realized that they were being set up spiritually, like they did everyone that they looked at. What that talks about is everything they requested to happen to me, happening to them and anyone that they go to for solace. So that means they don't have a backup plan. They don't realize that they don't have a backup plan, but they don't. All of these are the ones that will run back to their grandparents and their parents and their friends' house. And when all of them started losing, they said, I only got enough for myself. So when he decides that he's going to go to his auntie house, which is really his sister, she's going to say, you're not welcome here. All of these do not realize, all of them, that they were put in a place where this could happen. Every time I would get off camera, they would say, put me in Ether's home, put me on Ether's altar. Ether doesn't have an altar. So what they wanted to say was put me on her marble table. And when they got put on a slab of marble, they didn't even realize it. Because what is happening is they are realizing that I will come online, on live, whenever I please. They are realizing that they are not my overseers, they are not my oversoul, and they are not my children's fathers. They are not none of that. They want to be. They want to be. But they're not. Because I said that every, not one or two, every male and man that has ever laid down with me has experienced an awakening, and they have benefited tremendously. They didn't know that it was because of me, but it was. What would happen is they would get an increase in their jobs, they would get more customers, they would get more females. It just depends on what level their devil was on. He likes when I does that. What that means is whatever their preference at that moment after leaving my presence, they would get it. For instance, when I was married, this was a marriage, a man-made marriage, not the one that comes from the God. When he would leave me, he would get an influx of females. He wanted to pimp, and so he had an opportunity to do so. And when all my good graces fell off of him, he ran into countless upheavals. Some may say he's fallen off since leaving me. He not gonna say that. What he gonna say is, she all right, she cool, the children okay, because he's not going to admit publicly what really happened. He wants everyone to believe that I am still his wife. You ever had somebody that just don't tell the truth? They just want to just live in your good energy, even if they're not actually living there. Now that's something. Y'all need to understand that many of these males that have encountered us have fallen. When I put that reading out and I said, people want to know what is happening to the people that do things or have done things to them, it didn't get that many views. And that it was because when it got put out, it was put somewhere where those ones needed to hear it because the ones that were asking were not ready. They were not ready for the truth. I had a cousin once tell me that he's going to get it, you just not going to be able to witness it in so many words. With my marriage, it was, he did that? I can't believe he did that. That's not him. It would be so many people saying that that's not true about him because he was two-faced. He was two-faced. You can't tell me nothing about a Gemini because I have a lot of Geminis in my family and I was married to one once. Them Geminis is a cold piece of work. You'll be sitting there thinking nothing is wrong, and the whole time they done left you in their mind years ago. Not in their heart, in their mind. They done already started thinking about another master plan right before your eyes. What's happening is I'm not putting him on because y'all will be trying to figure out who he is, and he don't need no more of my good energy. He gonna sit there and think about all the things he did. Now, back to this homeless situation. You know how many times I've been homeless? Technically, if you do not have a lease, a contract in your name, you are homeless. So that means even if you live with your mother, your sister, a hotel, an Airbnb, you're homeless. That's the definition. If you go for any type of assistance, they'll tell you that. What happens is some receive assistance and then they still get residual income, which is royalties when you go and do your taxes. When you start realizing that all my I's are dotted and my T's are crossed, you'll understand that I am not the one that you want to brawl with because I done lived too much. When you start thinking you're going to brawl with somebody that done lived and done suffered, you barking up the wrong tree. My hypothesis is that the God keeps me humble by steady displacing me because otherwise I would get too comfortable. When I threw my deck, I was done at that moment with the I Am Choctaw video. I was done at that moment. I didn't care if I would be homeless in a year or 2 or 3 because I just got tired of pulling the same energy. When I announced publicly that I did not want to say certain things about partnerships that were high vibrational because I knew what would happen, I didn't. That was me protecting divine unions. What some of these other tarot readers are realizing is that it's because they did too much of the high vibrational relationships that they did not come together. Because we all like to believe that everyone is watching with the best intentions, and they're not. Some sensationalize the pathway to ascension, which is twin flame unions. Now, because I'm not supposed to talk about different types of unions, I'm not going to. When you realize when you were caught up in the wrath, the mixture of all of these different mergings, of all of these different type of beings, and that you were supposed to ascend out of there, you won't see it as beneficial Because you did not ascend out of there, the ones that should know about their union can't. Because the person that was supposed to guide them out did not make it. You aren't where I'm at spiritually, and you won't ever be where I'm at spiritually. Because you have not went up against the stuff I went up against. That's why. Y'all would say things like, Ether's supposed to deal with it. If she's indeed an angel, she's supposed to take this off of us. This is their stance, that I'm supposed to windmill their battle because I'm an angel. They know that I am. When they call on Mother Mary and all these different type of beings that they assume are angels, they're just now realizing that Jesus is not an angel. I say Jesus because J is pronounced ha in that era. That's why. Now they want to have before Common Era, not before Christ era, conversation. And that is for the intellectuals, not the speculators. I already said that a theologist, not a theologian, is the one that I want to go toe-to-toe with, because I want to see how extensive their education is. And what that talks about is that pathway that got you to that 501c3 is not the same pathway that I chose. So that means I could teach you something. So because all of the chatter stops when I'm on live, because they come in and watch, they are what I call zombies. The one that comes in and just sits and says things like, okay, let's see if we can get her to come back online. These are the ones that talk the most, try to influence those to do things that are ungodly. And then when y'all attempt to do so, he says things like, that's my vice. Because he thinks he is the puppeteer. So when y'all decide y'all going to comment something that he's telling you, or you answer a question through putting it in my chat, he believes that you are one of his and that he could use you. So I would refrain from doing that, because what they know to be true is when I am out of here, they won't have no access to y'all. Yeah, they don't have access to me. What they want you to do is say things like, I am his gimp. Because it was many that did it. They want you to vow to him. They, the demonic presence that works for the God, and the ones that feel like they can take over your body. You all know of the concept of walk in spirit, right? It's different levels to walk in spirit. You ever just go to sleep and everything is fine, and then you wake up and someone comes in? They come in and they look different. They look different. Their mannerisms is different. Their eyes are different. I tell you all the time, it's in the eyes. The body is the same. Their name is the same, but the spirit is different. The being inhabiting the body is different. Just like that, all of a sudden. A lot of mothers know what I'm talking about. Because you say, wait a minute, something, and then that connection that you have with what you believe to be your children, because that's their body, you start saying, there's no connection here, something wrong. And then you know that you are in the midst of it. And who is going to believe you when you say, that is my child's body, but that is not his being? spirit, presence, essence, or soul. Then you start talking about the miraculous. It's been many that have been through it. It is because they don't have a platform big enough to reach the people that would believe them. What I know to be true about the whole aluminum foil debacle, where people felt like if they put aluminum foil on their head, that they wouldn't be messed with by these beings that have psychoconnectivity. That meant that these particular people knew that things were intercepting their thoughts and implanting memories into their mind that were not theirs. Some of y'all seen it. They take little aluminum foil hats and they put them on their head. Some believe that they don't want to be persuaded in the wrong way, which is the same thing that I just said. However, they want them to stop reading their thoughts, and this is why they do it. You ever seen that woman on TikTok that said she know better to mess with certain females? She know not to talk to them, not to address them. This particular one was talking about people that cut their hair all the way off, like to a fro. You don't want to mess with them. And you know what? I had that same thought if she runs across this. When I seen the whole shaving of one side of the head, I said, she must don't want no man. This was before tarot. I was limited in my thinking because my era is the era that is associated with beauty. And for my particular era, your hair has a lot to do with your beauty. Now, because my weaves weren't offensive, I didn't have a lot of men and males looking at me like I need to take it off. Now, I did have some that did not want me to wear it, but they didn't see it as offensive. Like, you can't sit next to me because there's too many different textures. What happens is, when you develop, you start realizing who didn't care for you when you had brief conversations with them. They may not outright say, I don't like you because your body is better. I don't like you because you have a smile on your face every day. I don't like you because my boyfriend or my husband thinks you're attractive. You start realizing that these are the makeup of past life enemies. There's no angel on any earth that is not walking amongst past life enemies and people as well. But they haven't ascended enough to feel like it is harmful. Now, there are a certain amount of people that know when I go on live, all that ruckus stops. It's not in their minds per se, but it's like something coming from your neighbor. Information coming from down the street, in so many words. You know how you see people in these movies and they're in prison and they're communicating from cell to cell, and they may be talking to someone 5 cells down, and they say something and someone on the other side hears it. This is what it's like. I'm the person on the other side that hears it, in so many words. Some of y'all are the ones in between. So what that means is you hear it louder than I hear it because you're in the thick of it. It has everything to do with what you communicated about an angel, what you did, the candles that you lit. When the church members realize that I am at the forefront of what they call a revolutionary moment, then what you're going to see is them condemning the right ones. I have someone attempting to find in the Bible where they say tarot was unlawful. Because a lot of times sayings turn into scriptures, and you don't know if it's actually in there unless you research. It is the belief amongst Christians that anything that is associated with feeling good is a sin. For instance, the grape wine, because at one point it was grape wine that was taken at communion. Why is it theirs is okay, but not the one that come from the stove? Why is it? It is grape juice, but at one point it was grape wine. They want me to talk about the consumption of hemoglobin at service. You know how many people said they don't say that? You know what they say when they give you communion? Type it in Google. When you take upon that wafer and that juice, there's something that is said when you ingest it. It may not be said in the Christian denomination, but in the Catholic, it is said. Do you know how many got up and walked away? They said, I can't. It's because they never went Easter Sunday. That's why. Maybe because you didn't have any money, anything good to wear, or you just didn't want to go. My grandfather's era is the era of men that did not want to attend church. You would see all the women saying, I don't know why my husband does not want to go and commune with God. It is because God was not there. God is not in the church. His disciples are in the church. Now you understand what a disciple is. There's many pastors and preachers that don't see themselves as disciples, but that is what they are. What happens is people start realizing that you can have church anywhere. Y'all really want to know where church came from? Because I could take you there. There we have it. Exactly, Kate. The whole meeting started in slavery. That's where it started. The oppressed people started church. It just became popular because of what would happen after they would have church. The food would taste better, the crops would grow, people would start speaking and smiling and laughing and talking about their accomplishments and the things that they want to do for a collective as a whole. That is where church came from. He wants to say we were given the scraps, and I said it for you. These are the same scraps that you would pay good money to eat. Right now, as we speak, you would go to one of those soul food restaurants and buy all of them pork ribs and greens that come out of a can now. These greens come out of a can. Y'all know that the greens is coming out of a can. Let's not, They don't know because they don't eat canned greens, but those that eat fresh greens that have been cooked, you understand that the greens that come from a soul food restaurant are greens that come out of a can. Glory! Now, y'all tell me them glory greens ain't good. Just say it. Say them glory greens because you know that's a lie. You know them glory greens is good, so y'all need to stop. When I was younger, I didn't like greens. When I was a child, I didn't like greens. I've always liked cabbage, but I did not like greens. What they're talking about is turnip and mustard. God takes away. He's probably doing it. I don't like turnip and I don't like mustard. Y'all know the greens I like. If you know the greens I like, put it in the chat because some of y'all like the same one. When grandma would say mustards, put the mustards in that pot. They'll eat all kind. They'll eat all kind of greens because that was their food, soul food. Collard, there we go. Collard greens, that's me. I like me some collard greens. Put you some smoked turkey in there. If you're into pork, you put you some bacon in there, or some salt water. Is that salt pork, or whatever? Some ham shanks, some turkey necks, or whatever. They would say, ugh, turkey necks, but have you ate greens that has stewed in turkey necks? Y'all, yeah, somebody finna go get them some turkey necks and some collards today. I'm not telling y'all my recipe, because when I told y'all my recipe before, y'all messed it up. There was a group during the Paradigm Ascension that when I spoke to them telepathically and told them how to cook a meal, they were writing it down and they still messed it up. The skillet cornbread is hot water cornbread. That is my grandmother's era. When I made cornbread, I put it in the oven. I am someone that has never made hot water cornbread. That's the type of cooking you get from the elders. I have not baked an original pie, meaning from scratch. Do you know that some people believe that original from scratch means they're going to go and get a pie crust and put some filling in it? From scratch, for me, is you're making your own pie crust. You're making your own filling versus you're buying all the ingredients separate and putting it together and putting it in the oven. From scratch means everything comes from scratch. So now that we got that clear, because people need to realize that there are intelligent people watching them. Some. So when you say like from scratch, we want to see you kneading and doing. We want to see that rolling pin. We want to see the flour. We want to see the baking salt. We want to see all of that. We want to see you rolling it out and kneading it and pushing it into the table or the cutting board. We want to see all of that. We want to see that pureed cherry and strawberry that you got out of a mason jar because it's been sitting for a couple of days first. We want to see the preparation from scratch, because some people talk about it, but they ain't really about it. I've never made a from the scratch pie or cake, ever. Because that means I'm using baking powder, salts, yeast, evaporated milk. I'm pureeing fresh fruit, because people need to realize that everybody ain't stupid. Because I'm trying to tell you. You know that there's a group that believe the can that comes pressed, the ham, is they don't realize that that's processed. So when they put cherries and pineapples on top of it and say it tastes better than the one with the bone, they don't understand that it is processed, because it is a tradition in their family to eat that type. And they believe it tastes better. So when y'all decide that y'all want to make some fresh pies from scratch and some homemade from scratch cakes, please video it and say in an email, either this is my channel. Don't send me no link because I ain't opening it. Say this is my channel. Make sure everything is right, because when I type it in, if it shows up, I'm going to want to watch it, because I don't know many that cook from scratch. It's too, we are too accommodated, is what they want me to say, but that's not the word. We are too used to things being already pre-cooked to do anything from scratch. So now someone is understanding just because they go get a pie crust does not mean it's from scratch. We gotta, people like me need to be heard, because there's a misconception. The fact that you can make one is phenomenal, because I would get tired. Some people say that the store-bought crust is better because of the process that they use to make it. I don't know anyone that is cooking from scratch. Even my grandmother has a recipe for peach cobbler. When I would call her during the holidays, and I would say, Mama, because that's what I call my grandma, Mama, I need a recipe. I need a recipe for peach cobbler. She would talk a little bit, we would laugh, and then she would say, this is how I want you to make it, in so many words, because that is the easy version. But when she initially started making it, it was an all-day task. So that meant she already knew the ingredients that I needed that was already prepared to make a homemade peach cobbler. And she would prefer that I would do it that way, because then it would give me the taste that I know, and it wouldn't take all day. I'm the era where you call your grandmother, not your mother, and you ask your grandmother for her recipe. Because if your mother was like mine's, your mother was working. So we went to grandma for everything. So now y'all understand that there is a difference. Even with the microwave, when you have children, sometimes your children prefer microwave food. If you were to cook something from scratch and they would smell the hemoglobin, it probably would turn their stomach. You have to realize that it's evolution for a reason. Some things that come naturally from the ground, you don't want to ingest it straight out of the ground. There's a group that already know that that's not a good thing. Sometimes with the mixtures of herbs, it makes things less acidic. I'm going to use that word. That means if they had not been combined before you ingested it, it would have made you sick. People don't realize that even microwave is proof of evolution, because the women and the females did not want to spend all day cooking. So if you cook from scratch and you bake or fry or whatever, however you do, then good for you, because there is a group of women that feel like children should only eat home-cooked food, and when you add in microwavable food, then you can understand where there is a disconnect, because microwavable food is home-cooked food. The thing about it is, no one has time to sit in the kitchen all day and fry chicken and make homemade cornbread and every meal. That means that you have a lifestyle where you're afforded to be able to stay at home and cook for your children, and there's not many that can do that. even in a two-parent household. If you're in a two-parent household, usually you are working to maintain that household. Both parents are working. We're not the era where the woman sits at home and doesn't work. Even if she is at home, she has some type of home-based business or career that allows her to be there. And more than likely, she's not standing over the stove every time her child says, "I'm hungry." Well, maybe that's the only thing they can eat. You know, you have to take into consideration that if someone is eating a microwave dinner every time, then maybe that's all they can eat. Some are wanting to know why you're talking about microwave dinners. These are ones that believe that you are the one saying, Ether is eating hungry man. And that is the reason why you are bringing up microwave dinners. Is that the reason why you're bringing that up, Kate? They want to know if you say publicly that you have connectivity, Kate. Oh, okay. Because there go the children. That's not my child. So for those of you that want to say that's Ether's child outside playing, my child is not outside playing. I don't send my child outside to play by himself. So y'all remember that. That is someone that is visiting someone in that area, child playing. He's screaming because he's spoiled. Well, no matter where I'm at, you're going to hear people outside. My son is quiet. Since you want to talk about my son, he is quiet, but he can talk. You want to know, does my child state sentences clearly? No, he doesn't, because his brain doesn't work that way. But he can get a sentence out. They feel like I should make this live about my child. So when I get off, they can say, I told you I was the one communicating with her son. In that voice there. These are the ones that believe they're communicating with my son. The one that is an adolescent. We're waiting for you to say, she's on again. They're trying to scapegoat you, Kate. Some are saying it's always the same ones that have these crowns by their name, and they're not members. Well, what happens is when they get enough courage to finally tap in the chat, they become comfortable. They believe that, I don't know, it's them targeting me because they feel like it works when it's a group, when it's a big number of people doing it. How many shared? It's one that just left that said he was the reason why the Baba came out because he shared it to, what is it? Doctors with No Borders, that group. You didn't think I know? Let me tell you, when I heard spiritually, Doctors with No Borders, I said, let me see. let me see what this about. And when I typed that in, the F, the first thing I seen was a real Sangoma with a lot of y'all pictures. A lot of y'all pictures. I said, oh, he was bringing the noise, no doubt. There was no person of color on that table. You would say he was black. So this is what happens when my stuff gets shared to groups like that. So share the video. It's gonna be a whole bunch of people that wanna know that group because they wanna know what is a doctor with no borders. That's you wanna say they're like missionary. No, no, they're not. Yeah, I said it publicly because we wanna see what happens with that group. I want to see how many go in there under a fictitious account and act like they one of them just to bust it out of jit you. See what it is y'all think I don't know. That's what it is. And I know. You're not going to see him because he don't want you to see him. He is a Sangoma. You're not going to see nothing that he don't want you to see. This is what happens when you go to their parts and try to pull the game that you pull here. And by here, I mean YT. When you go over there in their region, talking about you want to learn or you want to become a Baba and all of this and that, they say, hey, we got one. We know what to do with this one. They sit you down in front of a smoking monkey and watch you go into a trance spiritually. That's what they do. Play with it. I'm interested. I want to see how many go to the Amazon and all of these different tribes to see if they can learn some secrets on Vodam. Because now they know it is a difference between voodoo, hoodoo, and Vodam. I taught them that. So when you go over there, you better hope you don't leave with an akiti. It's a reason why people use tourists, like the tourist programs. They don't want to slip off into darkness. They don't want to slip off into that. They want to make sure that their pathway is paved. Do you ever just feel like traveling and then you don't have a tour guide? You end up in a car somewhere fighting, brawling for your life. Trying to get away. Then you realize for you to actually be where you're safe, it requires a plane. Y'all ever been on any excursion where it required a plane for you to feel safe? You would say, I should have never did this. You know how many people lost their passport amongst landing? It's like it just mysteriously disappeared. Like you got everything together and you know that everything is covered. What he wants to say is either get off live because you still have stuff to move. And I'm saying whatever does not get moved by the time I have to be out of here just becomes in the air where it's fair. Common sense will tell you, you don't need a marble table if you don't have a place to put it. Which brings us back to the whole reason why Ether is on live, her homeless. They wanted to say, you can't do readings on her being homeless yet because she's still there. So we have to wait until Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, and then start doing readings on an angel that is homeless because they want to say if she's really someone with favor, he wouldn't have made her homeless. Anakasisi shifikitio. I am Melchizedek, and I'm telling you, God will make you homeless in a heartbeat. So, now that we got that in the air where it's fair, you start to realize that the anointed has a testimony. Testimonies mean you've been through something. How can you testify if you have not been through nothing? Going through some of the words. Not every, because they took your place. When you start to realize that the ones with connectivity through the means of Mansi took your place in a past life, you don't see them as allies and you don't see them as friends. You start saying, this makes sense because ever since I've heard your voice, everything in my life has come crashing down. Some would say, upon hearing my halo spiritually, that things have risen for them. Now you understand that because I was the person leading you out of a dark place, how you betrayed me. So when the next one comes, you'll just be dealing with them again. And I won't be there, spiritually or otherwise. What I'm doing now is trying to get back right with God because I said, God, why would you tell me to do these readings on this platform and then put me through this? And I didn't get any answer because in my mind, I could have stayed where I was at and I would have been fine, even if that meant I was no more. You don't know the type of woman I am. You don't. When some of you males and men realize that I am the type of woman that you needed, then it will change your outlook on life in general. Because I'm indeed a loyal woman. The looks is just a part of it. The intimacy is just a part of it. I'm talking about my mind and my connection to Source. You can take a good-looking woman and put her in a mansion, and it still won't equate to me in a box on the street. You understand what I'm saying? Now, what they're going to talk about is my readings. For those of you that hear them, they want to know if I'm going to read behind a black screen. Am I going to show the cards? And this is the reason why I am so skilled. I did not hear none of those things that you all currently are having to battle with. I didn't hear none of that. Before Ascension, that meant I didn't have no type of connectivity. Y'all were born with it. It is because your ancestors took my place with the Haxkania. So y'all were able to ascend past me because of your ancestors. Now you understand when you see him opening up the door and allowing things in, that they are things that are supposed to be in. Y'all see him. Y'all wanted to be him. When you seen the type of moves that he made internationally, you wanted to be him. You wanted to say, I should be the one that is traveling abroad. I wouldn't help none of them ninjas though. Even the ninjas locally said he went all the way over there and did that for them when he could have just did it in our community, having to battle his way out first. He would have had two hands and a foot in each window, ta-da, 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 having to get up out of your neck of the woods. Because that's what you want for anyone that you feel has money. And this is why certain rappers don't go into certain places, because they not stupid. Now, since you want to know why he didn't do for the community after doing absolutely nothing but stealing from your neighbor's garage, you want to know why. You say you want to interview the ones that don't like him. It's not that they don't like him publicly, fool. You wouldn't go to one place he's been, not one. You want to know the lavish places he's been, and he's not talking about that. I can almost bet that he's been to some pretty lavish places. You want to know that side of JT the Bigger Figure, but you don't. You want to know if he's been to Dubai and all of these different. Do he look like somebody that would go to Dubai? Maybe he'll go to Dubai. Let's ask him. JT the Bigger Figure, you going to Dubai? No. There you go. Now this one's saying, okay, we got her now. Y'all hear? We got her now. We just asked him, has he been? And if he said yes, then that means she's lying. See how that works? Every time I say, ask that man when he's on live, wrench holder, if he's ever been to Dubai, ask him if he knows me. He might lie to you and say, I don't know that person. That's a tarot card reader. And if he lies to you, who you gonna believe, me or him? Who you gonna believe? She wants to say Archangel Seraphims are not supposed to lie. How do you know where you ask him at if he's an Archangel Seraphim? He could just be old regular schmegular dude, there. And when you ask him a question, he gonna give you a ninja answer, because it ain't none of your business. Do you ever just walk up to anyone and ask them their business like you're supposed to know it? Like, some of y'all feel like you're so entitled to know others' business. I don't imagine that you walk up to anyone and say, did you give birth? Somebody that you don't know, you never seen before. Did you give birth? Is your car paid for? If you don't talk about finances at the office, what makes you think you're going to talk about somebody else's marriage or their marital status at the office? And you don't know them? That don't even sound right. So you'll walk up to that officer outside of your door and say, are you married? He probably would want to know why you are asking him his marital status. That to most people, that's too much information. Why would you want to know that? I did say outside of his door, because it was one outside of his door. Maybe I just came off of that so I could be on when they were outside of your door. Ooh, ooh. It's either gonna come on when they getting raided. Is either ooh, 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 ooh. Now I'm cooking with bacon fat. You ever cook with bacon fat? The taste is different. Now you want me off. Oh, I guess they realizing them people that they know. Go figure. How you doing? So I done did another hour. I was debating on should I do it on the other channel because that's the one they said was not monetized and I wouldn't get anything from it. But then they realized I would get hours and they said it's best to come over here because over here, the people that come in, she's not getting paid for it, but we can still listen just in case she says something profound. These are thorns in someone's side. Up until recently, y'all didn't realize that they made you believe that they were saying ether or Easter. But what was really happening was your name. They were saying y'all's names. They just made you believe it was me. That is a setup. That's definitely a setup. Well, because someone wants to know if there's any CAers in here, if everyone in the chat outside of my members could donate $1, I would appreciate it. Just $1 to the CA. Let's see how many donate. Because my members have already showed up and showed out for me. And even some decided they was coming back because this is too real right here. So they want to say she's paying for members. She want her members, and they can't get it out because it don't make sense. If you have supporters, they're going to support you, especially through eviction. What it is I'm not broke like they think. Either it's not broke and down and disgusted and busted like we wanted for the ones that donated. They wanted y'all to be broke, busted, and disgusted like they thought they were making me. When they realize that I have sources of income, not just this one, it's a little bit different. They spend all day in someone else's home thinking of a master plan for someone else's demise, and even y'all in the chat are doing better than the ones you hear. So don't be fooled. They are not fallen angels. These are tainted spirits that are either on people or floating about. Y'all must realize that for a spirit to walk into your body, they gotta come from somewhere. So you're familiar with walking spirit. Now you understand the connotation behind what you're hearing. It's not just spirits that come from consumption of alcohol. That's something totally different. There's not much information about walking spirits because those that know what it is have only gotten to a certain level, and then they possibly got stuck by something that they are listening to. Not many people call out for the God in the midst of this type of brawl because they've done so much where they feel like he's not going to answer. For me, I haven't done nearly a fifth of what some of these ones have done. When they hear me get mad with the God, they don't realize that where I'm at, I'm supposed to get mad with the God. You ever just realize that the God wants you to be mad with him? That's a whole nother level of understanding. Not understanding, Because when you realize that the God wants you to be mad with him, that means you've ascended. That talks about you realizing that the God wants you to be mad with him, and then you don't take it to heart after. It's not as disheartening as you want it to be. You want either to have a fall from grace, and Either's not falling from grace, she's falling into grace. There's a difference. I'm Seketifisi. You don't know who I am. Because when they start talking like that, you get nervous because you realize that every angel and anything else that is holy, you're not familiar with. So any type of holy being could be communicating through me at any given moment, and you don't know what it is because you're one that says, contain them. These are the ones that set things in the four corners of their room, and they feel like that's going to contain an angel. I don't, their thinking process it don't make sense. Like the one that says dinky, dinky, a dubaka dinky, because he doesn't know what it is. And what he's calling on is something that he heard a pantheon call. And when I said that this, what you're calling a dinky, is for pantheons, that meant they work for pantheons, not you. But he still wants everyone to believe that he is something that he is not. This is the one that is get out. That means you will see him walking, and you would say his eyes look lost. That the original being is the one that you're hearing talking, but the one that is inhabiting the body is something else. Some of y'all know what I'm talking about. There's an era that is in the midst of a brawl with their own descendants, like biological descendants. Do y'all know that that is possible? Because there's an era that gave birth to their enemies. That means their enemies came through them at some point. When you have people that request to be the children of Satan, Lucifer, Baal, Chemos, Thanos, Beelzebub, Prometheus, and a whole host of others, when they say they want to be their children, because this is the things that these ones asked for a long time ago, that meant when they actually came through them, they had to take them out. They weren't supposed to be in their heritage. They weren't supposed to be there. This is something that they requested it because they felt like if they came through a divine being like that, that they would have wealth. Now, those of you that have gotten high enough to where the God, Theeegod, speaks to you and asks you what you want, and you tell them, usually it's with your counterpart, your spiritual spouse, because you cannot make it to that level of ascension without having a spiritual spouse. And it's not the person that you decided you were going to marry, it's the person that the God, Theeegod, created for you specifically. And this is what I'm talking about, divine unions, divine marriage. We're talking about a spouse that is your husband, a spouse that is your wife. That's not something you pick. The God picks that for you. Because that means it don't matter what they look like. It don't matter if their feet stink, if they got bald spots, if they're missing one tooth. That is the person that is supposed to be there with you through this upheaval. What y'all are mad at is you want to say that you are the spiritual spouse of actors and celebrities, and now the big man, and y'all know who he is. This is what y'all do. This is what y'all do. Now he wants me to say Trump, so I said it. So what's going to happen now? I said that it was a good thing when he came into office because it would bring people of color together. And guess what? It brought people of color together. That was the sole reason for it. I had no idea that when he came in, he was going to send everything through a whirlwind. Because there was a certain group of people, not class, that felt like if he was in the office, that they would somehow do better. What you want to say is Clinton was the one where you had more opportunities, because he was. When he came into office, a whole bunch of people of all colors, shapes, and sizes had more opportunities. Not Bush. You saying, oh, she's one of them intelligent ninjas. I like to say that I am. So, now that we've established that I can go there too, you understand why I'm not the one you want to brawl with. I believe that they would want to interview me. If these type of people that have these podcasts that do all this because I'm not going to say that word, content, they want to interview me just to see if Satan would talk to them. They know that. What it is this is why people hide me, viewers that are currently viewing me and those that view me in the future. This is why they hide me, because they don't want what they feel is the right people to see me, because then that would mean I would be wealthy at one point, not famous, because I'm already famous. They don't want the zeros attached to my name simply because they don't want it. These are ones that were not they weren't smart in the sense that they didn't ask for money. They should ask for money instead of the downfall of other angels. They should have said, let me get an infinite amount of millions. Like if you get to the point where God asks you what you want, whether it's for this life or our next one, most people said, I want to be beautiful, I want to be skinny, I want to be tall, I want to be light-skinned, I want to be white, I want to be this. You know, these are the things that people ask God because of the pain associated with their entrance. But for me, I ask for the simple things. When you are approached by God with your spiritual spouse, that means your spiritual spouse is in observance too. And he or she asks for things as well. Y'all are interested in his belief because you feel like if he's truly Muslim or Islamic, then that means he is someone that could have multiple wives. That's why you're so interested in JT the Bigger Figure and his belief system. I don't get why y'all want to sensationalize him. If he is not the bee's knees, then you shouldn't want to do content on him, because the ones prior wanted him to fall. Y'all seen it. It was so much stuff about him when you put in his name, you didn't even see him, because all of them wanted to benefit off of his legacy. They felt like it was a free fall, and that they were going to do content and they was going to get some of those views and downplay him and diminish his name, which they're attempting to do to several rappers specifically. Currently, they're doing that. It just wasn't at as great as a level as somebody like Puffy or R. Kelly, because that's indeed what y'all wanted for him. Oh, now we're quiet. Now we're quiet. There's no talking now. Interesting. Because I know who went through a certain ascension and who didn't. Because when the God tell you that you need to donate or you need to move or get rid of that person, he's only going to say once. He's only going to say it once. Because a donation to me means you are saved. That's what it means. They don't like it, but the ones that have done it, they're not going to say anything because they know exactly that that is what it means. It is not the E word. What it is your salvation. Because y'all feel like you don't have to give anyone anything. This one's trying to see if they focus on the camera and see, and if I imagine it flipping, because this is how you sound. If I imagine it flipping, is it going to flip so we can see what she looks like? This is how you sound. You would say that he was a doofus. He wants to talk about somebody being FAT, and his belly is sticking out of his shirt right now. I don't have any interest in looking at you spiritually. It's the other way around. You see how y'all be trying to put yourself in my shoes? Even with me being homeless, you still want to be in my shoes. Thank you. What they're noticing is if either stops uploading content for the public, then that means we can't monitor her downfall. Motherfucker, I was down a long time ago. I came into the world down. What the? Y'all think y'all put too much emphasis on fame because it's not money. When I told you that 6 figures was not a lot of money, it just put you in a different tax bracket. You all have not reached 6 figures, so you don't understand. You would a person that has reached 6 figures know that you are the middle ground. That means you gonna have to pay like you're wealthy while not being wealthy. You don't have no exemptions. You ain't got no business because they don't see you as an LLC when you are a content creator. You have no exemptions. So you gonna pay your weight like you do, and then you gonna wait for somebody like me to come along and shift everything for you. Because for those that have actually said, I'm gonna pay my taxes this year and just hope for the best, they realize now that if you make 6 figures, you're shoveling out roughly 30 grand a year. Now, if I had not filed my taxes, I wouldn't know that. So you take 30 grand out of 100,000 a year, roughly. That puts you back at economic level. What's the level there? Does somebody know where that puts you? Because if 30,000 is theirs, that means you're making what, 70 or something like that? Then you take your living expenses because you're not qualified to live in any government funded anything but when you make 6 figures. So that means you're having to pay market value for everything. Your children are not candidates for free lunch. Any services that you have that comes through the state is going to be taken away. So now you understand that 6 figures, specifically 100,000, does not mean that you're rich. That means you are a footstool for the wealthy. So what they're going to say is we need more content creators because they are the ones that's actually paying in lump sums. They're not taking time to itemize every little thing, including toll. Let's see one of you content creators say, I'm going to itemize my toll because I do all my content in the car. Because, you know, it's some that start thinking like that. I do all of my content in my car. So let me see. There is a deduction for people that purchase cars. Say you know you finna make 100,000, right? And you decide you gonna go get a home or specifically a car. What you're going to end up getting is a deduction for purchasing that car. Now for homes, I talked about first-time home buyers. That is a program that I suggest anyone go through. I have not went through that program, but I know about it because I contemplated going through that program. Now you're saying either one of them. Either's not stupid. If I'm contemplating buying a home and I know about first-time home buyers, then that means I'm smart enough to do my research. Just like I did with tarot. I did my research first. I didn't just jump in with a deck and say, I'm a tarot reader today. I was a school bus driver. I was an after-school program specialist. I was urban gardener. I was a beautician. I was a medical student. What else was I done been to all type of programs. At one point, I did say I wanted to be an attorney, and I've talked about that. The LAW is not for me. They don't like it when I do that. It's not for me. Not that type. This must be one of y'all, one of yours. She want to be your wife. she want to be your wife. Let's do a challenge. Everybody that want to be JT the Bigger Figure's wife, when you go into his live, put 6 in there. We want to see if y'all put 6 in his. Because they know how many. somebody gonna be with me. Cause some of y'all just go over here and look. We want to see how many 6s come up in his chat when he's on. We want to see how many wives he should have. I wouldn't ever be mad at JT the Bigger Figure for having 6 wives. Why would I be mad? I wouldn't be one of them, but why would I be mad? I'm not like you think. They want to say that I'm a jealous-hearted woman. Do you know who I am? That is it.